The situation for landlocked developing countries faces significant challenges due to their lack of sea access, leading to high transportation costs, slow trade and infrastructural issues, all worsened by climate change, disrupting supply chains. In response, a recent UN conference in Turkmenistan aimed to rethink this narrative by promoting climate-resilient infrastructure, improved logistics and regional cooperation. The conference emphasizes that with effective policies and partnerships, landlocked developing countries can shift from being landlocked to land-linked, turning geographic disadvantages into opportunities for growth in a more connected world. Hello and welcome. I'm your host Gamachisa Mandira, joined by Getinet Shankute and Desta Kahasai, my colleagues, and stay with us. Gentlemen, welcome to our program.
Thank you. Nice to be here.
Getinet, let me begin with you. This conference entails taking these landlocked developing countries from being landlocked to land-linked. And this has been, of course, emphasized throughout the conference. And can you tell us, the intention of this conference in general?
Thank you so much, Gamachisa. So covering more than 70% of the Earth's surface. Oceans and the seas are the lifeblood of global development and prosperity. But unfortunately, landlocked developing countries remain at a very significant disadvantage due to these countries are not connected with directly maritime access or seaports. So these countries are really facing unprecedented challenges, especially to be connected with the global economy and the trade. Globally, if we take some of the figure, we have 44 landlocked countries, which is home to 600 million people. This takes a lion's share. I mean, it's a huge share of the global population. So this is a disadvantage. The United Nations Third Conference for landlocked countries, especially landlocked developing countries, has come in a very critical time, and one of the major conference that has been still going on in Turkmenistan. So this conference is majorly highlighted that how these countries are connected with seaports and the maritimes, because any nation should not be identified or constrained because of their geographical location. They have to be connected with the global trade and international trade. So countries should not be identified their geographical location, and Guterres has called and stressed how these countries be part of the global development by connecting and giving direct access to seaports for their trade connectivity. Because these countries are facilitating their import-export, there is a lot of challenges to facilitate their trade and to increase their revenue, because they are paying a huge amount of money for transit countries, especially neighboring countries. We can't take many countries like including Ethiopia, which is heavily dependent on Djibouti ports, and there are other countries really facing these extreme challenges because there is lots of costs of transportation, inadequate infrastructure, and as well as there is a delay. So the conference has, as I said earlier, come in a very critical time, I would say, Gamachis.
Thank you, Getinet. Desta. Of course, Getinet has mentioned a variety of challenges faced by these landlocked developing countries. Can you add to this, the impact of their situation on their international trade, import-export particularly? And of course, I would like you to tell us, how they are also impacted by, this climate change.
Yeah, and as Gitnas has been explaining most of the things, one of the major things across the global trade routes is the maritime routes through logistical and many other ways. So leaving these countries, particularly the 32 landlocked developing countries across the continents, would be against the Sustainable Development Goals of the UN initiative, which is leaving about more than 500 million of the global community. And this is against the UN Charter, and this is against the international laws and so on. So countries are asking not for a favor or any other kind of charity. They didn't choose to be where they are. Guterres stressed that countries should not be punished or should not be confined or be distanced from the maritime or sea access because of their geographical location alone. Within that, I think there needs to be a partnership and a cooperation among countries. And that has to be initiated, I think, at the global arena. When it comes to the landlocked developing countries, which are 32, I think the global community needs to address through a very innovative, strong strategies that can include them with access to be it direct territorial access to the sea, or be it in other mechanisms that can be inclusive to development and mutual prosperity. And that's what the main focus and most of the challenges that has been mentioned over the third landlocked developed countries conference that was undertaken in Turkmenistan.
Thank you, Desta. Getinet, let me come to you. Well, we know technology, impacts our daily life, anything that is around us, and the role of technology in improving our lifestyle, everything that we do is obvious, of course. And when technology comes to anything that has to do with landlocked developing countries in terms of their imports, exports, what do you think are the roles of technology in allowing landlocked developing countries, overcome the challenges we've mentioned now?
Yeah, exactly. As you said, technology, especially digitalization, is very important to fix the problem in the area of maritime, especially for landlocked countries. And it's important to employ this technology, especially to have a local innovation in those developing countries, especially which are landlocked countries. But for me, of course, technology is very important, but at this time of moment, technology is maybe secondary for most of the landlocked countries, because they should be first connected with the maritime. They should have access to direct access to seaports. So as we discussed earlier, this third United Nations conference on the landlocked developing countries is stressed countries first should be connected with maritime.
Getting it here, the role of technology in allowing regional connectivity in terms of trade, import-export trade specifically, I think is huge. The role it plays is, so significant. And if you take, the African continental free trade area, this also needs to be supported by technology. When we see these digital solutions, they just come in and of course, help us, avoid errors, mistakes, corruptions. You remember, I hope you also remember that a couple of years ago when Ethiopian exporters, exported, just their coffee to Europe, some irresponsible people in some way, just managed to take out, just those high quality coffee exports, substituted them with low quality beans, and then, when that reached, Europe, that of course affected, just the Ethiopian export market, coffee market, and real-time follow-up, just can be done using, digital technology, for instance, and this allows, nations, exporters, just to maintain their reputation in terms of, what they export. And unless and otherwise, this traditional trade is supported by technology, if we just remain with the way we did things before, I think our import-export market in general will be badly affected. Yeah?
Yeah, yeah.
So I hope technology
exactly.
is, something that...
exactly. I'm not actually undermining the importance of technology and digitalization, but I'm just giving priority.
Yeah,
Which
of course.
first come first, and the countries, especially landlocked developing countries, are really suffering from lack of direct access to sea, because they are spending a huge amount of money for transits, for neighboring countries. You can take our context in Ethiopia. The country is really investing, billions of dollars annually because of this country. This country with a huge population in the developing economy, it does not have direct access to maritime. But the importance of technology and digitalization, as you said, very important.
Ethiopia is one of the landlocked developing countries.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah?
Yeah.
And the situation they are in, calls for a change. This situation, has to change for the better, because landlocked developing countries, have suffered from having no access to the sea,
sure.
or ports in general. So this has come to surface these days, and these countries have converged. Okay, they just made it, a big agenda which has to be, entertained not only by landlocked developing countries, but the rest of the world as well. So why is this important? I mean, why should, just these countries bring the problem, this challenge, being a landlocked nation, to the front, and why should they make it a topic?
The issue of access to sea is, especially for landlocked countries, has come a pressing issue, specifically for Ethiopia. In recent time, based on and given the historical context, its geographical location, its population, and its growing economy, the country has given an agenda on the top, access to sea. And Ethiopia, once a time, and historically, it was part of the Red Sea. It was a sovereign and a legitimate country which had been accessing Red Sea. But in a historical fortune, the country has lost its access to sea, and for the last 3 or more decades, the country remains as a landlocked nation. And Antonio Guterres also repeatedly called these countries should be reintegrated and a part of this access to Red Sea.
Regional solution, okay?
Yeah.
The benefit is, for everyone.
Exactly.
It's not only, only for these landlocked developing nations, including Ethiopia. If we take, the African Continental Free Trade Area, if it has to take place in a way that benefits everyone, then cooperation is needed.
Sure.
Yeah?
Yeah.
So these countries, engage in developing their infrastructure. Take, Europe and Asia, the US, North America. These are advanced, and they have the technology. And obviously, they need, resources from developing countries. And if these developing nations, if they remain, just landlocked forever, there is little option to export them to the rest of the world. These nations, landlocked countries, in general, have suffered a lot because of their situation. And the rest of the world, just needs to come in and then, just give a hand to allow them, export, just their natural resources, which also benefits, just the rest of the world. And nations in general, just cannot be, satisfied with the situation of countries like Ethiopia being, just landlocked. Yeah?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Well, the next question that I have is, of course, the relationship or the agreement that was made during this meeting or this conference between Ethiopia and Turkmenistan. And can you tell us, about it? What is the aim, Desta?
Well, I think there is a mutual aspiration with this regard. Being similarly landlocked and having the aspiration of similar attaining toward such kind of logistical capabilities and so on. And before I went there, I just want to stress some of the things that have been discussing earlier. I think let's make sure that Ethiopia's demand is of well intention. And Ethiopia is not demanding for any charity or for any favor from anyone else. Ethiopia is demanding for a justice. The 32 countries of landlocked developing countries constitute about 600 million of the people of the world. And can you imagine that of the 32 countries, Ethiopia alone constitutes 1/4 of the 32 countries' population? Almost 1/4 of the 32 countries. And Ethiopia cannot remain in having 1/3 of the 32 countries' population being landlocked. And Ethiopia, again, is one of the 5 countries that generates almost half of the Africa's GDP, with a very large growing economy and ever growing, I can say, from year to year. And Ethiopia cannot afford to stay and remain landlocked. And this is not demanding any other thing instead of justice for what is on the ground. And coming back to what you have said, I think the agreement revolves around having mutual aspiration of mutual attitude towards gaining similarity. And having this mutual benefit, that's why I think with the coming of, again, the third landlocked developing countries conferences, having similarity in their aspirations and to gain a mutual prosperity and mutual development. And they want to pursue their demands with the same voice, with the same attitude in attaining what they have set as their goal to gain ahead. And I think that, again, Guterres has stressed that there needs to be a real, on the ground, a real partnership and cooperation amongst the countries with maritime, access to maritime, with, again, with the landlocked countries across the world.
Okay. Yetenet, of course, this is my last question, and I would like to ask you, what kind of efforts should Ethiopia put, to strengthen regional connectivity, and what should be Turkmenistan's, role here, and of course, the global community in general?
Yeah, exactly. By far, Ethiopia is a champion in regional integration, the East African region. There was an initial efforts from Ethiopia. We have, for instance, Addis Ababa, Djibouti railway connectivity. The country is also trying to connect with roads with Kenya, in South Sudan, and many regional countries. But it's not enough. As the African Union, through its African Continental Free Trade Area initiative, it's demanding, it's and aspiring to be connected, especially a very connected and a strong continent in Africa. So Ethiopia is playing its role, but that's not enough, as I said earlier. But the problem is here for Ethiopia, which is recently, raising a legitimate question to have access to seaport, a direct access. It's, as Desta earlier said, it's a historical and a just question. The call from Antonio Guterres, the United Nations Secretary General, and other speakers at the conference should be translated into a practical move, and the countries and immediately and swiftly should be reintegrated with access to sea. I would say,
You're right. Generally speaking,
Can I add something?
Yeah.
I think with regard to Ethiopia's practical move and efforts towards regional integration is much more, I can say, before, even ahead of the Agenda 2063, Ethiopia has been delving into regional integration and continental integration. Some of the things what we can mention is the railway between Ethiopia and Djibouti, and the plan stretches even going to Senegal too. And the other one is the pioneer of Africa, which is Ethiopian Airlines. And another thing is Ethiopia has already designated at a ministry level of regional integration. This shows how much committed Ethiopia is, not just as a mere of saying regional integration, but practically working for it. And however, Ethiopia doing all these things, not a single thing has been reciprocated, especially from neighboring countries or others that have the access to maritime, access to sea, in helping Ethiopia get its just demand. So I think with this regard, I think the international community should rethink and reimagine what the landlocked country, developing countries are demanding, like Ethiopia, so that mutual development and mutual prosperity can further flourish in the world, I think so.
Yeah, I think we need, huge infrastructure.
Of course.
Okay, and of course we need political will, and by bringing this together, nations, need to come and then invest so that they will be able to turn the bad or the negative impact of the geographic situation of these landlocked nations into opportunities by linking them.
Yeah,
Yeah?
exactly.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
So being linked is an important matter. It's an important topic
Exactly.
that was entertained, just during this conference, and we do hope that nations will do something real about it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Sure.
Gentlemen, I think our time is up, and we need to wrap it here. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Viewers, today's edition ends right here, and next time we'll come up with a new one. Until then, goodbye.